Today I'm going to be creating 2 necklaces inspired by Chanel, and I'm going to show you step by step how I'm going to make these necklaces in case you're interested in making some for yourself. There are 2 different Chanel necklaces that I've seen online that I think are absolutely beautiful. Unfortunately, because of copyright laws, I can't really show you guys a picture of them, but I will give you a brief description. One of the necklaces is made of faux pearls, red glass beads, and red glass flowers. There is another Chanel necklace that is very similar to it, and I believe that it is a more modern version of the same necklace. And although it still has the same elements of the faux pearls and the red glass flowers, rather than regular red glass beads, it has bezel set glass beads. So those are the 2 necklaces that I've taken my inspiration from, and I'm going to create 2 that are identical but somewhat similar today. I'll be showing you guys how I'm going to go about this and all of the different materials that I'm going to use to create these necklaces. I will be using some new materials along with some vintage materials and necklaces that I had here at home. The Chanel name carries a very hefty price tag with it. There are so many beautiful pieces of Chanel jewelry that I've seen that I certainly wouldn't mind owning, but there's no way I could ever afford to spend that kind of money. But I thought, you know what I could do is I could look at some of her beautiful pieces of jewelry, take some inspiration from them, and maybe create something for myself that is inspired by Chanel. For the first necklace that I'm going to make today, I am going to cheat just a little. I'm going to use this necklace that I purchased a while back at an antique store. I'm not going to destroy the necklace or break it apart in any way. I'm simply going to add a couple of pieces to it, and this will be totally reversible. I really wanted to find some beautiful gripois glass flowers like the ones I saw on the Chanel necklaces. Unfortunately, I was unable to locate anything identical, but after doing a whole lot of searching, I ran across these flowers on Amazon. These are from an Amazon seller out of India. I went ahead and ordered them, and I thought it would take a couple of months for them to get here, but I was surprised it only took a couple of weeks. I thought these were just beautiful, and they're of really good quality and a nice weight. If you like these and you're interested in purchasing them for yourself, there is a link for my Amazon store in the description box below this video. Anything that is purchased through my link, I do get a small commission from it, which really helps my channel out. But as always, there's never any pressure to buy. These flower beads came in packages of 5, and I ordered 2 packages, so I have a total of 10. But for this first necklace that I'm going to create, I'm only going to be using 3 of these beads. The wire that I'm going to be using, you can purchase at any craft store that sells supplies for jewelry. This is a 20 gauge gold tone wire by Bead Landing. And if I'm not mistaken, I either purchased this at a store like Joann's or Hobby Lobby, Michael's, something along those lines. What I'm going to do with this wire is I'm going to cut a piece that will fit inside of the flower. And I'll show you, I've already done one here. So I've kind of centered it, and then I have used my round nose pliers just to make loops on the ends so I will be able to connect it to the necklace. Cutting the right length of wire for this bead is kind of trial and error. You do have to play around with it a bit. You may end up wasting a small amount of your wire. I suggest once you find the right length to measure it and keep that in mind for cutting your other pieces. If you don't want to measure every piece that you cut, just get the right length of a piece of wire that you need and cut an extra one and use it to measure all of the other pieces of wire. I did forget to mention some of the tools I'll be using today. I'm going to be using some small wire cutters and of course some round nose pliers like you use for making bells and loops. The edges of the bead, you can see here it has tiny holes cut out in it, and that makes it easy to attach a bell or a jump ring. But we're going to do this a little differently. we're not going to attach a jump ring, but rather I am going to place the wire through the holes that are cut out, and I'm going to try to center it as best I can. Now that I have my wire in here, I want to take my round nose pliers. I'm going to grip the end of the wire and I'm going to turn it down to make a loop. Keep in mind, this is something you're going to have to practice and play around with a little in order to keep the bead from spinning around once it's attached to the necklace. It's really going to help if your wire is in there really tight. And what I mean by that is you want your wire short enough so that once you get your loops into the ends of it, it's going to fit very snug up against the actual bead. Now that I've got one end of my wire looped, I'm going to push it up against the bead. Keep the wire very snug, hold it in the center with your finger, and then I'll make a loop with the other end. Now I'm probably going to have to cut some of this wire off because again, I want this wire to fit very snug up against the bead. Now that I've got the end cut, I am going to slip in here with my round nose pliers and make the second loop. And keep in mind, this is going to be a little bit tedious because it is a very tight fit, and that's exactly what you want so that the bead won't be sliding around once it's attached to the necklace. I've gone ahead and I've attached wires to the 3 floral beads that I'm going to use for this. The next step is going to be taking this necklace apart at the links and attaching the flowers. And I kind of had to lay this out, look at it, measure it, and decide exactly where I wanted the flowers placed in the necklace. This string of beads, they're attached with loops, kind of like I did with the flower beads. So all I'm going to do is loosen up one of these loops, and then I will attach the loop on the flower bead. I'm going to attach this end first, and the other bead is a beveled glass bead. So that's going to attach a little differently, but I'll show you that when we get to it. So now that this one is attached and I've got the end closed up, I'm just checking to make sure it's nice and snug. The other bead where I detached the pearl from on this necklace is a beveled glass bead, and you can see that the loop doesn't open up on it, and that's just fine because I have a loop that I made earlier on the end of my flower bead. So I'm just going to open that up, and then I'm going to attach it to the beveled glass bead and close it back up. I'll make sure that this is nice and snug because I don't want my bead to fall off. And that will complete adding the first bead to this necklace. And then I'll move along and I'll add the other 2 beads. Now that I've shown you the process, I'm going to go ahead and add the other 2 beads off camera, and I'll come back and I'll show you how my necklace turned out. This is the result of my completed necklace, and I'm very happy with the way it looks. Unfortunately, I can't show you a picture of the necklace this one is inspired by, but you guys are welcome to take a screenshot of this and do a reverse Google search, or even just go online and search for red glass and pearl Chanel necklace, and maybe it'll pop up for you and you can kind of see where I'm getting my ideas and inspiration from. The necklace that I was inspired by is somewhat different. The materials are going to be of a different quality, but I liked the idea that I could take inspiration from that necklace and make something kind of similar to it on my own. You guys let me know what you think in the comments, and now I'm going to move along and I'm going to show you the items I'm going to use to create the second Chanel inspired necklace. For the second Chanel inspired necklace that I'm going to make, I'm going to do something similar to the necklace that I just made, but it's going to look more like the vintage version of the Chanel necklace. I'm going to be using this string of pearls. These are vintage faux pearls. They're still in really good condition, but this came out of some of my crafting supplies. I believe I got this in a jewelry lot or a bag sometime back, and it was broken. You can see that this had a push-in box closure and it's missing the other half of the closure. These pearls are on a string. I'm going to cut them apart And I'm going to use wire to make connectors to connect them, kind of like these previous necklace I showed you guys was connected together. I'm also going to be adding some faceted red glass beads. I did not have the right beads in my craft supplies, so I found these on Amazon. There are 5 different sizes. I'm going to be using the larger size because I feel like it's closer to the size of the pearls on this necklace. I like that these beads came in their own storage kit with dividers, so I'll be able to keep up with them. They also came with this little package. It has tweezers, a bead scoop, it has some string for stringing beads, and they also included some extra beads in multiple colors. Another item I'm going to be using to create this necklace are bead caps, and these are beautiful gold tone filigree style bead caps. I did have some of these in my crafting supplies. Unfortunately, they were too small, and I needed some bigger sizes. So this is another item that I found off of Amazon. I like that it has multiple sizes. It's in its own case, and I think these are just absolutely beautiful. This item, along with the other items that I have shown, will be in the description box below this video. There is a link to my Amazon store where you can find these items. Again, I do earn a small commission off of anything that sells through my link, but there's no pressure to buy. If you have items like this in your own craft supply, of course, you can use what you already have. I'm also going to be using the floral beads again, and I will be using the wire that I showed earlier, which is a 20 gauge wire. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to de-string all of these faux pearls. I'm going to put them in a container, and then I will show you what we're going to do next. I've unstrung my pearls. I have them in this container, and I ended up not needing all of them. I went ahead and created some different links that are going to make up this necklace. What I've done here is I've linked the pearls together, and each of these pieces have 8 pearls. And I'm going to show you how I made these. The easiest way to do this is to take your wire without cutting it and slip the pearl over it. Then you're going to take your needle nose pliers, and just like we did with the floral beads, I'm going to make a loop on the end of the wire. Now that I've completed the loop, I'm going to push my pearl down, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball the wire and give myself just enough room to make a loop and cut the wire off. I'm going to use my pliers again, and I'm going to make a loop on this end of the pearl, and that is how we make the bead links for this necklace. It does get easier cutting the wire to the right length after you've done a few of these. You kind of get the hang of how much wire you'll need. One thing that I'm not going to do is close this up, and I'm going to show you why. Once you've made at least one pearl like this, if you leave the loop on the second one you make open, all you have to do is hook it onto the previous one, then go ahead and close the loop up. It kind of saves a little bit of time instead of making a bunch of these and then having to open up the loop and hook them together. I'm not going to attach this pearl to the ones I've already hooked together because I have all of the pieces that I need to make this necklace. The reason I haven't hooked these pieces together is because I'm going to add something else to them. I'm going to add one of those faceted red glass beads onto the end. Now I have made about 9 of these pieces, and each one will get a faceted red bead on the end, and then I'm going to go back and decide where I want to put my flower beads. But this time on this necklace, I'm going to do the flower beads just a little differently. I'm going to be hooking them together. I'm going to be doing the same thing with the red glass beads that I did with the pearls. The only difference is I'm also going to add these really pretty filigree bead caps to the glass bead. And the funny thing about this is I thought that I needed a much larger bead cap than I actually did. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I ended up using the tiniest bead caps that came in this kit to go on these red glass beads. So I've already pushed the wire through, and I've put my bead cap on here, and now all I have to do is make a loop on the end of it. Just like I was showing earlier with the pearl, rather than closing my loop all the way up, I'm going to attach it to one end and then I'm going to close it up. Now I'm not going to do that on the other end. I am going to make a loop, but I'm going to go ahead and close the loop up for now because I still haven't decided where I'm going to add my flower beads. When I do add the flower parts to this necklace, everywhere I add them, they are going to be connected with this red glass bead, just to give you an example of how that's going to look. I mentioned earlier that for this necklace, I am going to connect some of these flowers together, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 together, like you see here, and then I'm also going to do a grouping of 2. Just like I did on the previous necklace, I'm going to use the 20 gauge wire to make these flower beads so that I can connect them. But unlike the last time, I am going to run this wire through 2 of these flowers. And first I'm going to connect them together, and then I'm going to make loops on the end so that I can connect them to the necklace. So I've already made the loop on one side, and before I cut this wire, I'm going to pull it really snug. Now that I've got my second loop made, I'm going to attach a third flower to make this kind of like a cluster, and I'm going to go about doing it the exact same way. So what I've done is I've used the wire and I've done the same thing to connect the third flower to the other one. But do you see this movement here? I'm not really crazy about that. So I am going to add a second wire to this, and that will kind of keep it from wiggling around so much. Adding that second wire really made a big difference, and I'm very happy with the way this turned out. Now, for the other flowers that are going to go on this necklace, I'm going to do those in clusters of 2 instead of 3. So there's only going to be one 3-flower cluster on the necklace, and then there's going to be two 2-flower clusters, if that makes sense to you guys. And I'm just going to attach these the way I've done the previous one. It seems like the more of these I do, the easier it gets. It's not quite so hard the second time, and it's a lot easier the third time of doing it. Once I get this one completed, I will have one more flower to do. So I'm going to do that other flower, and then I'm going to come back and show you how I'm going to assemble this necklace. My flowers are complete and ready to go, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to go about assembling this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the end that has the red bead on it. I've opened up the loop slightly. I'm going to hook the flower loop over it, and then I'm going to close this up. So you guys get the basic idea. I'm not sure where I'm going to place all of the different flowers on this necklace. That's going to be a little bit of trial and error and finagling, but I'm going to assemble the entire necklace, and then I'll come back and I'll show you guys how it looks. And this is my necklace all completed. I'm not sure which version I like the best, the first one or the second one. I did end up adding a couple of more links of pearls to this one because I wanted it to be a much longer necklace, and I wanted to have the option of doubling it up like I've done here on the form. This is a comparison of the 2 different Chanel inspired necklaces that I've created. You guys let me know in the comments which ones are your favorites. If you enjoyed today's content, please remember to give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. Ring the bell for notifications, and you'll be notified anytime I upload new content. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to share these items with me. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.